A superhero can be a vigilante or a law enforcement officer. It goes with the territory. Captain America, for instance, has been both. Batman too has often been a deputy or at least licensed by the Gotham City Police Department, but he's best known as the Dark Knight. The point is that the cape and cowl crowd works for truth and justice rather than the letter of the law. Their actions are governed by morality and a sense of right, but they still tend to operate to their own set of established rules. No killing, no innocence, no swearing, whatever they might be. Yet there comes a time when even the greatest heroes have their personal codes of honor tested. Those exceptions to their rules can also create a gripping story, truly challenging the very foundation and concept of a character. So with that in mind, I'm Will for What Culture, and here are 10 superheroes who broke their own rules. Number 10, Wonder Woman snaps a neck. Wonder Woman 219. The setup. Maxwell Lord is influencing Superman to attack people. He'd already beat up Batman and now he's going after Wonder Woman, implanting the idea in Superman's head that she is actually Doomsday hunting Lois. Using the lasso of truth to get him to tell her how to stop Superman's rampage. He says 2 words. Kill me, and she does, shockingly snapping his neck. This becomes a huge deal when Brother Eye broadcasts the footage of her killing him to every television, which is arguably the more important rule being broken. Wonder Woman is a tricky character to really quantify when it comes to her rules and morals. While she is a moral person from a warrior race of women, her society is not necessarily opposed to killing, just to murder. The real rule being broken here is a general rule of superheroes, the comfort rule. A hero, be they vigilante or deputized in some way, is on the side of the people and the greater good. They're allowed to continue their actions with a positive outlook because they make the citizens of their respective worlds feel safe. The second that Wonder Woman snapped a guy's neck in front of a camera, she broke the golden rule of superheroes and their faith in her was shattered. Number 9, Daredevil kills Bullseye, Shadowland 1. The Shadowland event is controversial for many Daredevil fans. On one hand, you have Daredevil being forced into taking control of the Hand, an evil ninja organization to try and turn them into protectors of New York City. But on the other, you have Daredevil giving a bunch of trained killers license to go after the lowest level criminals of NYC, which inevitably leads to fights with the other street level heroes of the area. Daredevil broke 2 rules on this one. The no killing rule, and the lesser known don't join up with your enemies clause. Daredevil has always kept it a bit fast and loose, mainly sticking to it in the same way Batman usually does, break all the bones, but let them live. Except in this instance. Bullseye had already leveled a city block, killed over 100 people, and then slaughtered a couple dozen of his men before goading DD into a final confrontation. Tainted by the darkness of the Hand, Daredevil breaks both of Bullseye's arms and shoves a sigh through his chest. Number 8, The Flash screws up the timeline. Flashpoint. Jay Garrick, Barry Allen, Wally West, Bart Allen, and every other speedster in the DC universe has, to put it delicately, made the timeline scream in unbridled agony multiple times in their history. The most obvious occasion of this particular infraction is Flashpoint, the event that rewrote the entire DC universe to bring about the New 52. That whole 5 years of comics happened because Barry went back in time and stopped the Reverse Flash from killing his mother. The verdict is still out on how Mar Allen being alive caused a war between Atlantis and Themyscira, but wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey, and all that nonsense. Number 7, Cyclops becomes a mutant terrorist. Avengers vs. X-Men. Even people who have never read comic books know about Professor Charles Xavier's goal with the X-Men, to create a world where mutants aren't feared and can live in harmony with humans. It's the core principle pushed in all of the X-Men franchise. But Cyclops was never allowed to see the world beyond that ideal. Taken straight from an orphanage by Xavier, Scott Summers had the entirety of that dream drilled into his very core. He was, in essence, a child soldier of peace, so it's no wonder that he always leaned into a hardline view of things. The near-extinction event M-Day left Cyclops as the leader of the entire subspecies on the brink of eradication, still in a world that hated and feared them, in fact, now more than ever. But then Avengers vs. X-Men happened and he went full crazy, harnessing the Phoenix Force to try and rebuild the mutant race, and also killing Charles Xavier. After that, he would become a mutant extremist, shattering the most basic rule of the X-Men. Don't go full Magneto. Number 6, Batman uses a gun. Final Crisis. The Golden Age version of Batman used a gun. We all know this because there's always that one guy who has to go, but he used guns before when someone talks about the times that Batman broke that special rule of his. However, outside of mind control, there's few definitive times Batman has used a gun, but the most well known is the event in Final Crisis. Darkseid's forces have taken over the Earth, enslaving 99.9% of the population, and everything is going to pot. With very little hope left, Batman takes matters into his own hands. Using the bullet that killed the new god Orion, that kicked off the Final Crisis miniseries, he gives a small speech about never breaking his no-gun rule before drawing a gun and firing it into the reincarnated Darkseid. Batman was, quote, killed by Darkseid's Omega Beam seconds later in an epic double kill moment, and the one time Batman broke his golden no-gun rule. Number 5. Batman also kills. Various comics. Following on from that, it's worth mentioning that Batman has killed people. Like, straight up killed them. Golden rule be damned. Starting with the Silver Age, there have been several examples of Batman killing. Batman locks the KG Beast in a room to starve to death in Batman 420. In that same vein, Batman may actually be pretty sadistic when he does decide to kill someone. In Batman Incorporated 2, Batman uses darts to stun the immortal Japanese villain Lord Deathman, to put him in a veritable coffin and sends him into space to suffocate to death slowly. Truly brutal. Number 4. The Vision tries to take over the world. West Coast Avengers 42-47. The Vision has only recently become a frontline character in the pop consciousness thanks to the MCU, but he has a long and convoluted history in the 616. The android who sometimes has the brainwaves of Wonder Man and has even had kids with Scarlet Witch that were then erased from existence because they were only sustained through Wanda's reality-altering powers, it's fair to say Vision's led a tough bioelectrical life. Is it any wonder that he'd go a bit crazy? The Vision Quest story ran in the West Coast Avengers, where the team and Scarlet Witch have to reclaim the body parts of the Vision after a variety of government agencies decide to dismantle him. When he comes back with a new chalk white body, Wonder Man refuses to use his own brain patterns again for the Vision, leading to Vision being more machine than man. Without a limited emotional base, the Vision begins a quest to turn the world into a utopia by taking over all computers, and he actually succeeds and even becomes a leader of the Avengers for a while, before he starts to control everything, whether people like it or not, which is really more of an Ultron modus operandi than Vision's. Number 3. Professor X mind wipes Magneto. Fatal Attractions. We all know someone who asked the question, if there are psychics, why don't they just mind wipe the baddies to be good or destroy their minds? Well, the X-Men have actually tried it. Charles Xavier has done this a couple of times. The best example though, and the one really worth talking about, is during Fatal Attractions. Magneto comes back from the dead to leave his acolytes against the X-Men again. This, paired with the fact that Colossus has given up on Xavier's dreams and actually joined the acolytes, and Wolverine's adamantium being ripped from his body, pushes Xavier to mind wipe Magneto, leaving him in a coma. It's the one time Xavier broke the no mind wipe rule and actually felt bad about it. Number 2. Spider-Man kills MORLUN. Spider-Man the Other. With great power comes great responsibility has become a defining line in pop culture. Even people who have never read Spider-Man know the line. Spider-Man, meanwhile, has forgotten the responsibility aspect of that when it comes to collateral damage on numerous occasions, resulting in the deaths of a few villains and loved ones. The 2 direct times that Spider-Man has killed has been the finisher in Amazing Spider-Man Annual 5, a Red Skull assassin who Spider-Man blew up with his own missile. The other from Spider-Man the Other is MORLUN, a villain that Spider-Man, a half spider at the time, actually eats. Yep, he eats the guy. With great hunger comes great responsibility, and all that. Number 1. Superman kills Mr. MXYZPTLK. Whatever happened to the man of tomorrow? Truth, justice, and the American way. That's the staple tagline for the big blue Boy Scout. And apparently, according to Superman, nowhere in that modus operandi is a clause about not murdering people. Perhaps the most impactful time, however, occurs in Alan Moore's Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow. Mr. MXYZPTLK has grown bored of being an annoyance to Superman and starts killing off key people in Superman's life. Superman retaliates by trying to send him to the Phantom Zone, knowing that Mixie would try and escape and that doing so would rip him in half. killing him. This is probably Superman's most important kill because it is the last Silver Age Superman story, and by the end, Clark Kent depowers himself out of guilt. It may not be the most brutal death Superman has caused, but it had the biggest impact. And there you have it, folks, 10 superheroes who broke their own rules. Feel free to drop this video a like if you enjoyed it, and drop me a follow on Twitter at YouSlyDogU. I'm Will for What Culture, thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you next time.